So for this video, I'm doing a continuation of the series. This is the wet and dry. And basically what that means is you're just taking wet pigment and putting it directly on the paper. If you have not seen the wet and wet technique, go check that one out because I show you how to do these 3 exercises in that previous video. I'll be covering a lot of the basic techniques for watercolor painting, and I also have a course that goes deep dives into the techniques and style in which you can paint with watercolors from complete basics, and no drawing skills are required. So I'll leave a link below so you can check that out if you'd like to. So on to wet on dry. This technique is really basic, and what it means is you're picking up pigment by wetting your brush and then figuring out kind of like the amount of color that you want to use. For me, I'm really liking the saturation of the green that I have here. But if you wanted to water it down, you can always dab your brush and then just pick up more water and go to another area of the palette, and you'll see it's less saturated. So it's really about deciding kind of how much color you want to use when you go onto the paper, but you're going to quickly see why mastering this technique is very important. I'm going to do a floral subject over here. I'm just going to do some leaves, pretending like I'm doing floral stationery. And what it means is you're just going to use the water up in the brush, and you're pulling the brush in a certain direction, which pulls the water out of it. The amount of pressure that you use will determine how much water comes out of the brush. Of course, you can go in any direction like that. You can even go back over a subject that you painted, just like that. But the trick is to really just use up whatever you have in your brush. You're not layering, you're simply using up however much water you have already in there. This is basically just a very simple technique that a lot of artists use to lay down saturated color onto the paper. Now, if you were using a less saturated amount of water, like for instance, I'm going to just draw some little floral elements here. I'm even going to overlap this floral painting. You'll see that it has a beautiful translucency here. I could also deploy the wet and wet technique by picking up another color really quickly and putting it in there while it's still wet. So then I'd be using both techniques. I can also just use the wet on dry technique. It really just depends on which style you love the most, and some artists do both. Some artists just do one over the other. A lot of botanical artists do wet and wet. A lot of floral artists do this one. But you'll see that there is no right or wrong for using either technique. It's really just a preference, and knowing how to use both will allow you to improve your art because you'll be able to deploy both techniques when you're doing a more complex painting, such as like a landscape painting. A lot of those are painted with a base of wet and wet, and then wet on dry to show the overlapping elements. So if I were to show you how that works, I would be going over here now that this is dry, and I might paint some floral elements over it, just using wet on dry. And you'll see it really makes the subject matter pop out because it's just so bold and dark. But when you do this, you do have to remember that the color that's behind the green is going to show through. So when you have wet and wet technique, the color that goes over it, it's going to do the same thing. But if you're using a very light color with wet on dry, you're going to see this background even more so. So just keep that in mind as you plan all of the stages of your painting, or if you just are beginning painting and you want to try experimenting with different subjects. They're both phenomenal techniques to master, and they are foundational level techniques. This is a very simple way of doing it. And if you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do. And check out my watercolor course where I go extremely in depth on everything that I use, my palette, my paints, my brushes, the type of paper that I use all the time. If you're at all interested in that sort of a thing, I cover that extensively in my course, and I break down each of these techniques for you, and I show you how to do these in more detail using a floral subject that you might want to paint. Like if you want to do stationery, or if you want to do landscape, or maybe you just want to learn how to do botanicals because you love them like I do, then check out my watercolor course, because that will really give you the extra bonus material you might be looking for. And I also have a Patreon if you're interested in following the weekly tutorials that I have on there. Go ahead and check that out too, please. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video.